January Andrews grew up believing in happy endings, which is honestly hilarious because the universe was about to prove her wrong in every possible way. When she was 12, her mom was diagnosed with cancer. Her dad stayed calm, gentle, hopeful, the kind of parent who took them out for a night and made them dance, just to remind her that life could still feel light. And January, being a kid who desperately wanted to believe things were okay, developed her core worldview. Happy endings are real, and love wins every time. It's wholesome, and it's going to absolutely destroy her later. Fast forward. She's 28, thriving, glowing, moisturized. Her life is basically a Pinterest board. Hot staple boyfriend, chic New York apartment, published romance author, parents are healthy and cancer-free. January is living the dream. The kind of life where you honestly think bad things only happen to other people. Then she turns 29, and her entire belief system decides to self-destruct. Her mom calls one day. Her dad died. Suddenly, no warning. Her grief is so heavy that her relationship collapses. Her writing career is crumbling. She's broke, homeless, and mentally done. The girl who believed in love and magic and optimism is now grieving the one person who taught her all of that. But wait, it gets worse. At the funeral, she finds out his famous work trips were actually weekend getaways with his mistress. Mr. Perfect Husband, Mr. Love Wins Every Time, was cheating on her mom for years. Then the mistress, Sonia, hands January a letter and the keys to his secret lake house. A lake house where he played happy family with this other woman. And now it belongs to January. What broke her heart even more was the fact that her mother already knows what her father did, yet she refused to speak about it. So, since she's broke, what does she do? She moves into the lake house of trauma. And when she arrives, she meets her grumpy neighbor, Augustus Gus Everett. Backstory: January and Augustus once knew each other in college. They met a few times, and January hated him from the very start because of his seemingly snarky and I'm better than everyone kind of attitude. But she still found him hot because, come on, look at him. Back then, they were totally opposites. Her stories were light and romantic. His were dark and brooding. Back to present. After a few days of moving in the lake house, January goes to a gathering hosted by Pete, the cozy bookstore owner, and surprise, Sonia is there. January has a panic attack and hides in the bathroom. Sonia senses it and makes an excuse to leave. January calms down after Sonia left, and not long after, Gus walks in, because he's also an author. January drinks a little too much, and Gus offers to drive her home. And because both of their writing careers are dying hard, they decide to make a deal. January will write a tragic, literary, Gus-style novel. Gus will write a happy, romantic, January-style novel. Whoever finishes and publishes first wins. And the prize is, the loser will have to promote the book. And of course, the winner can rub it on the loser's face, which actually is the main reason they agreed to do it. But do they do this like normal people? No, they go on research dates. And of course, Augustus adds, January, don't fall in love with me, at the end. So now, January begins writing her new book, and since she doesn't know what else to write, she starts with what she knows best, her parents' marriage. Then Friday hits, and it's Gus's turn to lead the research outing. He takes her to interview a woman whose sister joined a suicide cult and died. While coming back from the interview, January opened up about her dad. During this part, I didn't get the charged tension in the car. It's a little weird to talk about your dead dad or victim of religious cult and then immediately feel the need to kiss someone. But that's just my opinion. Anyway, the next day, it's January's turn. She takes Gus to a carnival, insisting it's the perfect place for characters to fall in love. As they wander through the rides and noise, she finally asks why he's so fixated on the cult research. That's when Gus opens up about his abusive father. He never understood why his mom stayed with him, and that confusion is what pulled him towards studying cults. The need to understand why people stay in places they should be desperate to escape. And honestly, from this point on, A big part of the book turns into a slow chase, because January is already halfway in love with Augustus the moment their challenge starts. Not that she'd admit it out loud. Over time, January and Gus fall into a comfortable rhythm, writing, chatting across their balconies, and going on research trips. On their next research outing, Gus takes January to an interview, only for the person to not show up. So they end up having dinner together instead, and we'll just pretend we didn't notice them holding hands under the table. The next day, January plans a Meg Ryan rom-com marathon. As they watch, she can't ignore her growing attraction to Gus. She reminds herself it's risky. Gus is a commitment phobe who only does casual. But apparently her common sense took the day off. They kiss, things heat up, and only stop when they get kicked out of the parking lot. After their little something, Gus disappears for a few days. January hates how much it bothers her, and she's angry at herself for caring so much. Later, January stops by Pete's bookstore to sign copies of her novels. While chatting, Pete casually reveals she's actually Gus's aunt, something January never knew. Pete also explains why Gus was so grumpy the day January first moved in. That night had been his birthday, the same day his wife had once left him. Every year since, his friends throw a party to lift his spirits. January felt sad because she got to know all these things from Pete, even though she thought Gus and her was on good term. Gus finally resurfaces after days of silence. January feels torn and frustrated. Realizing how little she knows about him and how closed off he can be, she tries to keep her distance, but Gus pulls her back in. He calls her over because the guy they were supposed to interview last week showed up at Gus's house. After the interview, January notices Gus has a new tattoo. He doesn't explain it, and she doesn't press, but as she leaves, one thought lingers. She doesn't want a relationship with someone so guarded, someone who keeps his heart locked away. On Saturday, January and Gus head to the Black Cat Saloon, a cowboy-style bar and dance club. They drink, dance, and laugh, but as the night winds down and the buzz fades, January finally confronts Gus about everything he's been keeping from her. He bristles at first, angry, defensive, but eventually opens up. His wife, Naomi, left him for his best friend and college roommate. The next night, Gus opens up more. Naomi was a visual artist, and he loved how confident she was. They were married for 2 years before it all fell apart. The conversation grows heavier, then unexpectedly shifts into something else entirely. Because apparently, talking about your deepest traumas automatically leads to making out. Things quickly turn physical, until their food delivery interrupts them. Honestly, is it just me, or does every heart-to-heart in this book come with a side of steam? A few days later, as she's clearing out the basement, Gus comes over and they, well, finally, sleep together at his place. But of course, since we need drama, Gus gets a phone call afterwards and, like a responsible adult, tells January to leave, like they didn't just destroy the damn couch. Later, at Pete's cookout, January notices Gus seems distant. When she teasingly suggests they sneak off for some fun, he turns her down. In that moment, she recognizes the truth. Gus doesn't trust easily. Oh wow, January, what a revelation. Totally didn't see that coming. The next day, January and Gus visit the ruins of the cult that had been burned down years ago, the same cult whose members they had been interviewing. Standing among the ashes, Gus finally explains his distance at the cookout. He'd received a call from his divorce lawyer. Apparently, he isn't fully divorced. His ex just wants to make sure a few things. The reminder rattled him. And then, because of course we need maximum drama, he turns to January and confesses he's loved her since college, but never made a move, assuming she hated him. Yes, confession on the ashes of a burned cult. How romantic. January admits she loves him too, and they make love again. No, not on the ashes, thank goodness. The days slip by, and their bond deepens. By August, January finishes her book, and so does Gus. At a bookstore event hosted by Pete, the past comes crashing back. Naomi, Gus's ex-wife, shows up looking for him, and at the same time, Sonia appears, determined to talk to January. She quickly started before January could run away. Sonia first dated Walt Andrews in high school. He was her first boyfriend. Years later, they reconnected in North Bear Shores during a brief separation between Walt and January's mom. Their weekends together became an affair, and Walt even bought the lake house, talking about moving there. But when January's mom was diagnosed with cancer, he returned to her and ended things with Sonia. When the illness went into remission a second time, he grew distant once more, and that was the end of it. In simple words, her dad loved Sonia as well as January's mom. He used Sonia for comfort when his own wife was suffering from cancer. After his death, Sonia was shocked to hear from his lawyer. Walt wanted her to give January the key and the letter. She believes he wanted January to finally learn the truth, something her mother might never have told her. After Sonia leaves, January finally opens her father's letter, a year after his death. Inside, he directs her to a safe containing a letter for every year of her life, each written on her birthday. There's also a key to a boat named January, waiting for her at the marina. Overwhelmed, January calls her best friend, and they spend the night talking through everything. Still, one thing nags at her. She hasn't heard from Gus. When he finally reaches out, he explains that Naomi left Parker and wants him back. But he doesn't want her. He wants January. And they finally make up in the rain with warm hearts. In the end, their whole challenge teaches them something bigger than genre. January writing darker and Gus attempting a love story shows them that storytelling is really about emotional truth, about flawed people, messy endings, and the kind of hope that sits right beside the hurt. Okay, so this book made me want to pull out my hair. And at the same time, I couldn't stop reading. My rating? 4 out of 5. And not 5 because the miscommunication of the characters made me so frustrated. Another disaster wrapped up. Like and subscribe for the next emotional roller coaster.